It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host, and I have the magical Hemma Haridin here with me. Hemma is an intuitive energy healer trained in Theta Healing. She's also a serial entrepreneur and investor. In her healing practice, she specializes in removing energetic blocks in entrepreneurial startup and creativity. Her purpose is to show you how to access your divine power as a creator in order to experience the life you truly deserve using your soul's unique blueprint. She's the creator of the Ascended Entrepreneur Mastery Program, which shows you how to bridge the gap between your spiritual practice and your business so you can change the planet and upgrade our civilization. This is so in line with what I love and what I teach. So I'm really happy to have you here, Hemma. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your own journey. How did you find your way to entrepreneurship? Like, where did you come across this as your passion? Like, what's your backstory?
So I'll just give you like the short condensed version, obviously. So I started my first company at 23 and it was a tax franchise. So I ran that for about 4 years. So not spiritual,
Yeah.
not in the spiritual realm, but I started to have, this awakening that everyone kind of goes through where they're realizing that, chasing material success and like being in the material world isn't like the end game to everything. So after running for my company for about 4 years, I just had a series of events. My grandfather passed away. That always puts you like on a path to go deeper, and just started to wake up to working with the chakras and healing and meditation, and realized like there's no way that I can continue in my current company. So I ended up selling that. And just it allowed me to create the space to go deeper into myself and go deeper into meditation. And I realized how much I love the spiritual realm, and I love just working with all of those things, and just remembering that it was in my nature to just remember myself as a spiritual being. But there was also this part of me that was always an entrepreneur. And I don't want to say I got tired of, but I quickly, like after 3 or 4 years of just like chilling out, like being in meditation, I was even taking on healing clients, but not necessarily like creating a business out of it, just really just connecting with people and using these newfound gifts and abilities that I had. I could probably go deeper into that story a little later. But after starting that process of starting to heal people, then I realized, wait, hold on, this is also a business. Like there's no difference from what I'm doing now in the spiritual realm to what I did before when I was an entrepreneur. So I just knew that we had to merge the two, because then also what I started to see around me is like people being really afraid of money in the spiritual realm, and afraid of charging for their gifts. So I was like, okay, this is something that I'm here to bridge. And I created the program that I'm running now to help people not only be able to package their gifts and have it as their income and create a business from it, but to really dive deeper into what those gifts are. So that was like kind of one thing that I saw. It was like either someone was able to teach you how to heal or show you your abilities, point you to that, but not show you how to turn it into a business. And then on the other end, the person that knew how to turn it into a business didn't even know how to help you explain what your spiritual gifts were to be able to package it. So that kind of just allowed me to like bridge my two worlds. So really quick backstory on that. But with the healing part, I remember just knowing that I needed to go deeper within myself, and coming across the term theta healing, which theta brainwave. And I was really into neuroscience, like when trying to reprogram beliefs and all the lack things, and so just doing my research on that, and then coming across theta healing and going into one of their meditations or circles, and really feeling like home, and really just remembering a whole lot. But then there was a whole other journey there where I knew I had to walk away from the modality and just like really come into my own remembering and my own knowing. So that's part of like what I bring forward. It's like, okay, you don't have to have a modality, you don't have to have a certification, you don't have to be an expert in something to bring your gifts forward. You can kind of just allow yourself to be you. Because I didn't know how to put like a name or a term to like what was just coming through me. So yeah, I mean, that was the journey, and now I feel like we're just in the middle of it, or we're just in the beginning of it. And based on all the people that are coming into my program in the school, we're learning so much because people are just like blossoming and having these gifts and abilities, and I don't know, there's this whole new wave that I feel like is coming on the planet, and it's like, okay, we all have to prepare and support each other. So
Totally. Yeah. We have such similar journeys in sort of different ways. I feel like mine was a little bit backwards from yours. I started studying hypnotherapy and I started doing like diving headfirst into personal growth work. And then I realized I had all these skills with automation and content creation. And like, I was really talented in this area. And then I started realizing that my business being built around just the technology, I was missing out on this whole spiritual side of me, this whole inner work side of me that really wanted to come through. And it's been this process of figuring out how to put them both together. I love that you guide people to find their truth and what their passion is and what their sort of innate gifts and magic trick is, and then figure out how to bring that forward as something that can actually support them. And let's talk about that belief for a second, because I feel like it happened for me. It probably happened for you. It probably happens for most of our clients and probably a lot of people listening, is that if this is something I'm really skilled at, I shouldn't charge money for it. Or if I'm a real healer, then that's my gift to the world. And I feel like I'll just share where I stand on it. And then I'd love to hear how you see it, that if we refuse to receive payment for the beauty of the work that we're bringing forth, that means, this is my logical brain rationalizing it, that means we have to make an income some other way, because to live in this physical world, we have to have some sort of money to feed ourselves, unless we're lucky to be that oracle on the mountaintop that everyone brings the chickens and the crops to. We have to work some other job to make that income, which inevitably means that we're spending less of our time doing that healing, beauty, magic trick, like contribution that we know we're on this earth to do. So by saying I'm not willing to receive money for this, we're saying I'm willing to spend less of my time doing that, even though we know we're put on this earth to do that thing. And that just doesn't make sense to me. So that's why one reason I see that it's really important for us to overcome that block of being willing to receive money for the beauty of the work that we do, because that means we get to do more of it. And that means more people get to receive it. And isn't that the point of having this beautiful talent and skill in the first place? So where do you stand on that whole receiving money for your work, or the belief that we shouldn't have money because we're so deep into the spiritual healing work?
yeah, I mean, I'm completely on the same side that you're on, right? Like, why not? Just
Yeah.
basically, why not? So what I feel is that we come into these bodies, like we're here in our human body. We know that we're souls. We know that we're these magical beings, and we're having a human experience. And specifically, I feel like we come into this body for energetic exchange, like to exchange and to experience and to see each other physically on the physical realm. And what I feel has happened with money specifically is that it started to represent something that was of a negative nature, instead of just representing the medium of exchange that can occur between two beings. So when you take away the judgment from money, when you just see money as an energy that is allowed to move, whether you want to gift it to somebody that you love, whether you want to purchase something for yourself, whether you want to donate as charity, or whether you want to use it for something negative, it is up to you. So take the judgment out of money, and then just look within yourself. If you know that you are a being that wants to utilize that medium to exchange, then why not be open to receiving it and exchanging it in a way that's in alignment with your gifts and your natural ability? So it's like there's no difference between you going to a grocery store or a farmer's market and exchanging that same dollar for an apple that someone just grew. That was their gift. Or someone that created an oil because they're an alchemist, or whatever it is. There's no difference between you doing that or receiving it for a healing session. It's like the second part of that. So for the first part is the money and the stigma around money, because it can be used in any way for
Yeah.
anything on or any way of exchange on this plane. But the other part of that is because spirituality has been rooted in this, you have to give it all away. You cannot be material. You cannot indulge in the material world as a spiritual being. Then now that just created separation between having a gift and being a spiritual being, and then exchanging for that. And the roots are in all of the religions. Like, it just goes back to that, you have to give it away. But yet at the same time, we are not living in those ancient times when those books were written. So it may have been completely accurate at that time, like find a different way to exchange. But in the society and the world that we live in here of commerce and exchange and apps and internet, and you can create whatever you want to create. Okay, let's utilize that medium and then inject our essence into what we're putting out into the world. So yeah. I feel like it's really important to just unify that. You know, if you're not wanting to receive money for your spiritual gifts because you're keeping your spirituality separate from who you are in physical, and then you're keeping money separate from who you are spiritually. Mm-hmm. So just allow those two things to merge, and then we all can be living in our gifts and our blueprint. And I use that term a lot because that's how I help people kind of hone in on what their essence is. It's like, what is your blueprint? You know, you came here with a design. You came here to experience something. You have these traits. What is that? And you allow yourself to not only see yourself, but to share that gift with other beings so that they could see their blueprint and they can see their gift within themselves. And then we're living on a planet that's like pretty harmonious and everyone's
different place. Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing I keep coming back to is if people like us, the healers, the leaders, the transformation, like light bulbs are willing to be people who have money. Can you imagine the world we would be living in? I remember picking apart when I started doing more of the inner work, recognizing that there was this belief that kept coming up of people with money are assholes. Excuse me if you don't swear. I swear on this show. That belief, because I had grown up in a pretty wealthy neighborhood in a like suburb of Portland, Oregon, and most of the kids I knew who were the rich kids in school, and my family was not hurting for money back then at that time, they were rude and they were not kind people. And I had made up this years of proof and justification that those who have money are not good people. And I had to start looking for evidence where that wasn't actually universally true. That was a judgment I had made about money and about people who have money, and that it taints them in some way, or that they can't be good people if they have money. And I started looking at Oprah. She's making a difference. Ellen DeGeneres doing amazing things with money. Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation making a difference when it comes to this planet. And those are people with money, and they're willing to have it, and they're willing to do something with it that is globally changing consciousness or changing the physical reality we live in for the better. So it's almost like we have all these beliefs, and we have to actually look at, is that true? Is that universally true? Or is the opposite perhaps just as true? And if I were going to be somebody who chose to have that as my reality, without the judgment, without the projection and expectation and, you know, perception I used to have, could it be that it's different than I expected? And then am I willing to step into who would I be with money, and how much better of a world would this be? I've been playing with the idea of, could I actually be more of me, which I know is a contribution to this planet, if I were willing to have more money? And as I started asking that question the last few weeks, money has been coming in ways that I did not know was possible to come in unexpected ways. I mean, you and I have both set up our businesses to have the ability to receive money from all different ways. We have programs and courses that people can just purchase on their own without us having to have a conversation every time necessarily. And that's beautiful. But there's just random places that money has been flowing in, not logically. I feel like that's another belief. It's just coming organically, that we have to work hard to make money, that money has to only come through the channels that we know that we've put in place, when really there's this whole spectrum of ways that money or that receiving can occur once we open the doors to that, which is awesome.
Yeah. And that's exactly the reason why I started going into investing, because then I was like, okay, yes, I have a business that's automated. I have a course that I don't necessarily have to be present for, but then I'm like, wait, there's more. There's got to be more. I'm you know, there's got to be a a well, right? Like there has to be, if I know that I'm an infinite being, then it has to be manifested here somewhere, and it is here. I'm just not tapping into it. um and like you said, I similar belief growing up, like the people that had money weren't great people, but also like the people that had money were buying like jets and cribs and mansions and whatever, you know, like growing up seeing like MTV Cribs, I'm like, but that's not what I would do. Like that's not what I would do with the money. I would like do other things. And just making sure, like when I really woke up to, okay, so what's stopping it from coming into my life, it was these beliefs, and making sure that I was taking all the judgment out of it so that I could be open to everything being infinite. And judgment like creates this funnel, and you're like blocking every other possibility that's around you. So when I allowed myself to open that up, then, you know, cryptocurrency came into my field, and then I saw like all the technology and the projects and everything that was being created with that. And then I really saw that money could come out of thin air. And then I'm like, oh, the energy for me energetically, money is air. You don't see it, right? Like you don't see it circulating, but you know it's there, and you also need it to survive. On there, you need it to survive. So even if you're being gifted all of these things, somebody's creating money for you to receive those gifts in some way.
Exactly.
But we do have to have that medium, whether even if it's exchange. Money is going to exist here on this planet for however long that lasts. I don't know, but for right now, this space that we're in, we need it. But if we allow it to, if we allow it to be something in the same way that we allow ourselves to know that the air is going to be there when we need to breathe, then we can open up to that greater abundance, and then we can experience the magic that you just spoke about of like, then you don't even know where it can come from.
Yes. Yes.
And you're open to all those endless possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So can we talk about the 8th chakra a little bit? Because I know most people are familiar with the 7 chakras, and I'd love to hear just a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I always have a disclaimer when I say the eighth chakra, because I'm not one for like super serious terms or like specific things like you have to have an eighth chakra. I kind of more use it as just like a guide to allowing you to experience chakras that are outside of your body. So most of us do a lot of spiritual work, and we work with our body and we work with the chakras within our body. But there, for me, there's this energy that is above and outside of your body that connects to your emotional and mental, etheric, and auric fields, and that greater aspect of you, that your higher self, you could say. And for me, it's a bridge that allows all that energy of the higher self to come into the body and communicate with all of the lower chakras. So one thing that I realized too is that, and this is, all of this just comes through me just intuitively experiencing what I have experienced in my body, and then intuitively working with other people, and then just knowing that it's a very similar experience of what's happening in the body. That when you allow yourself to tap into that greater field, then you upgrade the 7th chakra, because that's even an old game too. It's like all the old money beliefs, all the old chakra beliefs. Like we're in a time where things are upgrading so fast. And for me, I always just use the analogy of like the light bulb was just 100 years ago, and from the light bulb to now, we're at Bluetooth and holographic technology. So it's like things are speeding up and things are moving fast. And the chakra system came from the Upanishads and those texts that are like really ancient. I feel like humanity, like we have evolved to a point where things are not being documented as quickly or in the way that they were documented before. So it is up to us to really be able to connect to our own higher selves, which that's our guru, right? Your own higher self is your
Yeah.
guru. You know, there's no teacher or anything that's going to tell you something that you don't already know. That teacher might be able to point you to like sitting down still to really be able to access the information. But for me, accessing the 8th chakra was just my own gateway to my innate knowledge and my innate knowing of what I came here for, and my connection to the greater cosmos. So what we do in the school is just provide that space for everyone to connect to that higher self that they are, and then to clear anything that's in the body that may block that connection from being a free flow.
Awesome. So who is a really great fit for coming into this ascended entrepreneur mastery program, or the work that you're doing with your clients in
Yeah,
general.
exactly those that feel that they have ascended, right? So it's not like what is ascension. No, it's those that kind of know that they have mastery over themselves and they know they have that entrepreneurial spirit. So you don't necessarily have to be an entrepreneur or like have to be experienced in business, but you have to know that you're a creator of some sort. We are ultimately the universe and the creator of our realities,
Yeah.
but you do have to have that drive of like there's work that's coming through you, whether it's a course or a program or a piece of art or anything that you want to, any gift that you want to share with the world and monetize, obviously in whatever way that monetization can come to you, because we look at all alternate routes to being able to express. It doesn't have to be through money. There's new ways that we can do things. We can create tokens, we can create apps, like there's a lot out there. I won't go into that, but for those that like hear that and just get excited by that's really who we're here for. And for those that really recognize that they are their own master, like they are the master of their reality, and they have come to a level of self-mastery, but they really just want like a collective, a community to help them take the next step. Because for me, I loved being a loner at a certain phase in my life, but after a while, it's like, okay, come on, are there others? And can we all do this together? So it's
Absolutely.
for those that are looking for that community also.
Yeah, I know personally, I would not still be in business if it weren't for the community and for the mastermind groups and for the just camaraderie of having other entrepreneurs who are reaching for similar things as me, who have been around me every step of the way since I started my business. Well, since a year into starting my business and realizing that that was going to help. Yeah, community can be the difference between choosing to give up or remembering who you are and stepping further into it. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that you create that space. That's amazing. So let's talk about ascension a little bit, because, some of us really resonate with that word and some of us are like, what do you even mean by that?
So I try to use words that incorporate everything, right? So awakening and enlightenment, transcendence, ascension, for me, that's like all very similar.
Yeah.
So it's not like some ascension that's only available for some people that came here specifically to experience that. For me, I feel like the entire collective of humanity is undergoing a transformation where they're no longer subjected to a veil that we agreed upon collectively to come into with this incarnation. And collectively, humanity is going through a phase where that veil is being lifted, because we're asking to remember who we are, and we're asking to step into our higher selves. For me, what I do feel comes with that enlightenment process is healing. Healing comes with awakening, because you do have to face all aspects of yourself, and we do have to face our collective shadow. And that's something that we are going through right now. Is, there's a collective shadow that's coming up, and we're having to deal with it on all levels and all fronts, and we have to remain in our sovereignty. So for me, ascension also means knowing that you are a sovereign being and that you have full rights over yourself, and knowing how to create those boundaries and how not to blame, guilt, shame, create energetic cords with any other being, whether they're incarnated into a human body or non-physical. And it's really just remembering how to step into that power that you have, and knowing that you have full access to all of that power, and that it is your birthright to wield that power. So not just the knowing and the remembering of it. For me, ascension is the ability to wield that power here on this plane. And what comes with that is you also having to be able to be in a place where you can operate in harmony with all. So before the collective will, you could do what you want, you could harm people, which is why we have so much duality on this plane. But now that we're asking to come into remembering, that has to be resolved, and that has to be unified, has to be healed, and we have to come into a place of our actions are in service to all and
Mhm.
to everyone. And that's the part where, like, you do your own shadow work, and you realize how you're kind of you're playing a game with others, and you clear all those woundings or whatever it is, and all the lack beliefs, and then you really come into that place of remembering who you are, and then knowing how to operate, how your thought, deeds, and actions are completely aligned with that new state of being.
Awesome.
So for me, that's what it is.
Yeah. about recognizing that you are an infinite being. You're being tapped on the shoulder to release all that stuff, not necessarily get rid of your shadow, but to shine light onto it so that it can be, lit again. The whole point is to step into the light and recognize that this is a plane on which we are powerful and we can create magic, and to be the ones broadcasting that beauty or choosing that beauty in the first place is how we help the whole world. What I'm really, just for those you listening in the future, we are recording this during quarantine of COVID, of course. And I feel really excited and inspired about the amount of people right now that are having to be with themselves and look at that and what possibilities may arise. Like, is this the change that we've been asking for people to have to sit and be with themselves and see what comes of that, and what shift or change can arise from more people being alone, being home with themselves, so that they have to actually look at who they are and what they desire, and maybe even hear, because there's more space to hear what voice their highest selves or their guides or whatever voice is coming through, what needs to shift and change and rearrange so that we can come back into normal life with more beauty and more expansion and more consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how I feel, because for me, I self-isolated 2 years ago when I was going through my my spiritual journey. I like literally just took away social media, took away a lot of food, like just took away everything. Um Went celibate, the whole 9 yards, just to really dive into myself, and no books, nothing, like just sitting in meditation. And I did that for about a year and a half. And it was the best thing that I could have. I muted myself, but I know this is a cursing book. Sometimes, you're on,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, not the one. But it was the best thing that I could have done for myself,
Yeah.
because to achieve the level of self-mastery, the knowing, the remembering, the empowerment, like just that full access to all of me. And that's what I feel like is the opportunity that's available for so many right now. And they have the tools and the means and everything necessary and everything available at their fingertips. Like it is so important to recognize, like, we have internet, we have I was looking, like, my daughter wanted, I have a 15-year-old, and she wanted something from a store, and I'm like, they're probably not open. She's like, no, there's an app, go order it, they'll come to your door. And I'm like, oh yes, of course. Like, of course, we there's an app for everything. So it's like, in this time of what is considered peril, us in the United States, and I'm not speaking to other places on the planet because I know this is not the case, but us in the United States, we have everything that we need. No matter what's going on, we have access to everything that we need. And let's not lie to ourselves and say that we don't. Like, yes, there's a pandemic happening. Yes, there's great fear that's occurring in the collective, but take ownership of what you have access to, and then, like, find that gratitude. And then obviously you'll open your perspective and you'll be able to dive deeper and then achieve what you really did come here for. Because if you feel like you're unhappy, this sit at what I feel like is like, Earth is like, go sit in your room. Like, like,
I saw that meme too. I was like, yeah, that's exactly right.
go sit in your room and don't come out until you
Right.
recognize what
Think
you've
about
done.
what you've done. Yeah.
And that's for us entirely, especially in the United States, where overconsumption is such a huge issue. So stop consuming in this moment and allow yourself to just dive deeper, and everything will be okay, like, in the end. I mean, I've just flew back home because I was in Malta hosting a retreat in the middle of this whole thing, and like quarantines were happening and lockdowns of airports were happening, and I'm laughing because I'm like, I'm connected, and I already know, like, the path for everyone and everything is clear. And the women at the retreat were amazing because they were just in that same mindset and like so empowered, and they're like, okay, so if we have to quarantine when we get out of the airport, then we're just going to get this venue for another week. We'll all be fine. Like, because it was a 1 week retreat, and we're like, oh, we'll just stay here for 2 weeks. So you really just cultivate that, no matter where you are, what's happening in the world, like, that's where your power is. Don't give it away.
Right.
Don't give it to someone else. Just pull it back.
Exactly.
So,
We're so in control of that when we choose to be, when we don't succumb to the media outlets that are trying to coerce us into fear mongering or whatever, when we choose to pay really close attention to what content we're willing to digest and where we're actually listening. If the listening's coming from the right place, then we get to choose what affects us and what doesn't affect us. And we become a different level of resilient, which is that, like you said, that's where our power is. Let's not give that away. Awesome. Well, I love it. I'm so inspired by you. And I know that the work that you're bringing forward is super important. And for everyone who's resonating with Hemma, we are going to put a link in the show notes of this episode that you can go and check out her program. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what they're going to check out?
Yeah, so if they click on that page, then they'll just get the whole program outline. So that one is the 8th Chakra Activation Incubator. And don't have an exact start date on that soon, but we'll get it updated as soon as we post the episode. And it is a 3-month process. There are 8 modules and 3 immersion weeks just to help you dive into all of the chakras, opening up the 8th, accessing what your highest vision is, accessing your blueprint, accessing your tone. All the really good details are on the page itself. But if any of that sounds good, definitely go check that out. And we'll be having a cohort coming out very soon.
Awesome. I highly, highly recommend you all check that out if it's speaking to you. And I just want to bow in gratitude to the beauty of the work that you're bringing to the world, Hemma. And is there any last things you want to leave this episode by sharing with these people?
We're all one. That's a legit thing. It's not cliche. We are all one, and let's do it together, and let's just come together.
Yes.
That's just the main thing. And thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing. I love seeing those that are merging spiritual, business, all of that together, and especially using the words magic and all of that good stuff, because that's what I'm here for. I know that's why I came to Earth. So thank you.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. And thank you all who are listening. Together we rise. That's my favorite hashtag to use. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, please click that subscribe button. If you're listening on iTunes, please rate and review this show and download the episodes, because that helps us out a lot. And wherever you are, keep asking big questions and taking bold action, because you are here for a reason. Bye. Thanks for tuning into Tactical Magic. To find out more, please visit our website, wildheartsriseup.com. Be sure to take a second and subscribe to the show, and come back next week for another edition of Tactical Magic.